Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to Week 3 of the Fantasy 15 podcast. As always, I'm your host, Drake, joined by the man, the producer, Leighton Pip Shabantone.
We haven't drafted yet. We're running out of time.
And sitting in our guest host for the Fantasy 15, Lex Glasgow.
Drafting tomorrow, Leighton, just in time for the preseason to be over.
That is very, very true. Guys, if you have not drafted yet, you better get to it this week. We talked last week how you should still not be drafting. Now, your time is running out. Guys, today on this show, we're going to break down quarterback sleepers and busts, running back sleepers and busts, tight end sleeper and busts, wide receiver sleeper and busts, defense sleeper and busts, and we will give you a bold prediction at each position for this fantasy season. So, Leighton, without further ado, bring the noise. Fantasy 15, a sauce on the side production. All right, guys, so we'll go ahead and we'll start it off hot and heavy. And we're going to come at you with a quarterback that we see having success. Maybe that's drafted late, maybe not drafted at all. Maybe even a guy who's, at the bottom half of the top 10 that could even finish at number 1. So we're going to go ahead and give you the sleepers. Lex, who do you have as your quarterback sleeper this season?
My sleeper actually is a guy who's going to be spending the first 3 weeks suspended, Jameis Winston. I think he can come back and he can have a hell of a fantasy season for your team this year. I think he had his best season last year if you look at the numbers. He makes stupid mistakes, which is one thing that kind of turns people away. But if you look at his stats, they're kind of inflated for what the team's always playing behind, so he's always got to throw the ball, and he's got Mike Evans out there catching the ball.
He's got the Matt Stafford with Calvin Johnson.
Yes, that's basically what he has. I think he's going to be a sleeper, this guy that could, even if he misses those first 4 weeks, he might finish in the top 10 based off inflation of his stats.
Yeah, can we just go ahead and start calling that like the Stafford factor? Like any team that's going to be trailing basically the whole entire season and relying on fourth quarter comebacks, we'll just call that the Stafford factor. And Lex Glasgow is deeming Jameis Winston this season has the Stafford factor. Leighton, who do you have as a sleeper this season?
It's probably a very popular pick, but it's a good pick still. Patrick Mahomes. We know he steps into an offense that has a ton of good weapons, and Andy Reid, isn't the great offensive mind that Matt Nagy was by any stretch of the imagination. But Patrick Mahomes, we saw him throw a 70-yard pass in the air, so we know that the cannon. He's going to hit some huge plays. I think he'd good with his legs, too. He's going right now to 15 quarterback overall in the 12th round. I think he's worth way more than that. Yeah,
I love that since the 70-yard bomb, his ADP has flown up there.
All that matters how far he can throw.
Yeah, I actually have some buddies that always check in and try to get some fantasy advice, and I'm like, well, how did everybody else round up in your league? Almost every single league I've seen recently is relying on Patrick Mahomes. Like, one guy out there in that league is dead set that Patrick Mahomes is going to be a top 10 quarterback. Like, they are starting him QB1 right off the rip, just because they saw a 70-yard bomb. My guy is quite the opposite of Patrick Mahomes, and that's Tyrod Taylor, Mr. Consistency. He's not even in the top 20 of ADPs right now, and the Browns have basically came out and said it is all but Tyrod Taylor's job at this point. So I expect Tyrod to be out there the first few weeks, whenever you start your fantasy season, you just have to have the hot hand early. And you look at Tyrod's numbers over the past few seasons. He was 16th last year, but he was in a very, very odd situation. In the years prior to that, he finished 8th and 8th. And this is a guy that gets you 5.6 points per game in his 43 starts in the NFL. So if you get me 5.6 points per game just based off of your legs, I'm happy with that, because then the quarterback doesn't have to go out there and put up absurd numbers passing the ball, which he does have the chance to do that with an upgrade with Jarvis Landry and Josh Gordon at the wide receiver position. Because you look at his top pass catchers the last few seasons. Last year, Charles Clay and LaShawn McCoy had the most receiving yards for him last season, and that's not conducive for fantasy football success. So you look at a guy like Tyrod, who should play good enough to keep his job, unless the rest of the team just plays terrible around him and they are forced to put Baker in. I think Tyrod could actually be a top 10 quarterback this season. So Lex, who do you have as a bust for this season?
Bust? You guys might kind of look at me funny for this, but I'm going to say Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be my bust this year. He don't have very good weapons, in my opinion. Okay? And his ADP, he's going in the 10th round. He's going around with guys like Phillip Rivers, who I think is going to have a way better year and has way better weapons than Jimmy Garoppolo does. I think he's going to be the bust just because he's a great quarterback, but his weapons are not what you want for your great quarterback. And I don't think the running game is going to be that good. So I think they're going to be relying on him to throw the ball, and he's going to be forced to throw a bunch of turnovers, I think, this year.
Yeah, I think that people are running into the problem of looking at the 49ers record whenever he came in. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo can win you games, but I don't think he's going to be the guy who puts up absurd numbers week in and week out. And I think being, slotting him in as a QB1, I think that's a little much for him. I actually agree with you. I think that people are drafting him right now just based off of record. And if you want to do that, that's fine, but 9 times out of 10 in the NFL, games are not won and lost at the quarterback position, and I feel like Garoppolo had a little bit to do with that, but not all of it.
Let's just throw this out here first about Garoppolo. First week, he's got to play the Vikings, okay? They have an astounding defense, and it's at Minnesota. It's going to be even harder. He's got to play the Rams defense twice this year, and he's also got to face Patrick Peterson twice this year, okay? That don't make for a very good quarterback success, if you ask me.
No, I agree with that. He does have a very tough schedule, and people look at him like he threw 7 touchdown passes last season in 5 games. That's not great by any stretch of the imagination. Like, that is okay. 7 touchdowns to 5 picks. It's not like he's going to be getting absurd touchdown numbers, so I'm not big on Garoppolo.
Hey, yeah, you guys say my bust is going to Garoppolo. Like, bad weapons, I don't trust the O-line, I don't trust the running backs at all. And who you thought to Marquise Goodwin and Pierre Garçon? He's not Peyton Manning. He's going to make Pierre Garçon great. Marquise Goodwin is stopping the pan.
Yeah, no, I agree with you guys. I really like that, but mine's actually going to be somebody different. I'm going with Deshaun Watson. Right now, people are taking him as the 2nd overall quarterback behind Aaron Rodgers, and only just 1 round after Rodgers. I don't know what people see in this. Like, if you didn't, you only have to be doing this if you didn't watch the Texans games last year. Like, every single game, Deshaun Watson was trailing, and that defense is going to be a lot better, so he's not going to be out there getting 300 yards in the second half of games slinging the ball around the yard. I mean, I can point back to the Chiefs game and the Patriots game, 2 games that he exploded late just because his team was down. I mean, the Texans are going to be better than what they were last year. They kind of flip-flop wins and losses whenever he was starting. So half the time he was out there, he was trailing, and he was just having to chuck the ball down the field. He got so many 50-50 balls. His wide receivers are good. DeAndre Hopkins is great, in my opinion. But after that, I really don't see much there. People like Will Fuller. He's always hurt, and I don't think Will Fuller is a legitimately good wide receiver in the NFL.
It'd be one thing if... Okay, Aaron Rodgers got injured last year, okay? But we've seen him... We have a big sample size of what he is, and we know what he's going to be like. Deshaun Watson has played, 5 games, 8 games? We don't know what he's going to be like coming off an injury. So it'd be one thing if he'd been in the league for 10 years, but he's been in the league for 1 year. We don't know how he's going to recover and how he's going to come back, because a lot of his game was being able to move around and scramble. And people don't realize that.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with that. The injury is a factor. But, even if he does come back fully healthy, I still don't think he's going to be the number 2 quarterback in fantasy. I mean, his team was legitimately trailing almost every time he was out on the field. So, I don't necessarily like Deshaun Watson going up that high. I'm not going to call him a bust. I think he's going to be right around 10 to 15. But don't take him as a 2nd quarterback off the board. I mean, this would be the equivalent of Alex Smith's last season being his rookie season, and all you did was see him play in his, the last half of the season whenever he was just chucking the ball around the yard, scoring big points, and just basically drafting off that. And nobody's going to be doing that with Alex Smith, so I don't see why everybody wants to do it with Deshaun Watson. Lex, give us a bold prediction for the quarterback position.
My bold prediction this year is that Phillip Rivers will finish as a top 3 fantasy quarterback. As my bold prediction, he has some of the best weapons in all of the NFL. Keenan Allen is a monster. Mike Williams, I'm telling you people, if he comes back healthy, he is going to be a top-tier wide receiver soon. Antonio Gates is still there, who's always been a reliable red zone threat. He's pretty much been, as far as tight ends goes, the model of consistency for tight ends, even though he is old as shit.
Yeah, he is very old.
Melvin Gordon is an excellent receiving back. He's proven that. I just think Phillip Rivers got everything right there in front of him, and this is the year he needs to take that step and then go on.
I have a prediction that Tom Brady, the GOAT, will finish outside the top 5 for quarterbacks. Last season, you saw his arm strength starting to go away a little bit, and he allowed a whole lot of screen passes and many passes to Gronk. If Gronk gets injured, or teams somehow take away the screen passes, which is tough to do because Patriots game plan amazing for every team. Tom Brady can really finish outside the top 5, maybe in the top 7 or 8, because, and you see, when it gets cold outside, he gets fewer numbers, and he's not running the ball more. He has games under 200 passing yards, like 1 touchdown. Bold prediction, but I think Tom Brady go for not so great of a season.
I honestly could see that. Julian Edelman obviously being out the first 4 games. He's going to have to rely on Chris Hogan to put up good, phenomenal numbers, basically, if he's wanting to, finish in the top 5. So I actually like that bold prediction. Mine is actually going to be Tyrod Taylor finishes in the top 10. This is a guy that's not even being drafted in the top 20. I think that the Browns are going to get a sniff of success. Hugh Jackson's going to run with it and basically say, hey, I had one of the best turnarounds in sports history. I went from 0 wins to 6, 7, maybe even 8 wins in the NFL, and he's going to do that all with Tyrod Taylor, just so even if they are bad this year, he can turn around at the end of the season and say, I have Baker Mayfield now. He has waited a season. This guy is great at prolonging getting fired, and I think he's going to do that with Tyrod Taylor and Baker Mayfield. So we hit the quarterbacks hot and heavy. We'll go ahead and give you a sleeper at the running back position. Lex, who do you have for me?
Well, I know Drake won't like this, but I think Derrick Henry is a sleeper that guys are kind of looking past. He's in a system where they want to run the ball a bunch, and he's got an excellent offensive line, which sets up for success. Deion Lewis is not that good, people. Derrick Henry is way better than Deion Lewis. I can see him getting... He's going to be good based off volume, in my opinion. He's going to be a very viable option based on volume. And if he gets in the red zone, there really should be nobody that stops him from getting in the end zone.
No, I like that, actually. I like that he's flying under the radar with Derrick Henry. I don't think that he's that great of a running back. But you look at Derrick Henry and Deion Lewis... They do 2 opposite things.
Yes.
Even if Deion Lewis is successful this year, it's not going to be the stuff that Derrick Henry's good at. So it's not like he's going to be taking anything away from Derrick Henry. I think he's going to get the lion's share. I really do. I like that as a sleeper. And where's he getting taken at right now?
Right now, he's going in the middle of the 4th round, which I think he can play well above value if you look into that. I think he will finish. He'll finish in the top 15 for sure of running backs. He might even sneak into the top 10. In standard leagues, I think he would finish in the top 10.
Yeah, and if people want to point at this, lack of success over the past couple of years for Derrick Henry, DeMarco Murray was Derrick Henry, and all they did was just split snaps.
And they took him in the 2nd round of the draft, so they totally expected him to come in and be the bell cow back at some point.
Yeah, I actually love that one. So Leighton, who do you have as your sleeper running back?
This one might tip Nick and Paul a little bit, but it's going to be Tariq Cohen. He's going to go in the 9th round of drafts. Last year we saw him, make great play, get the ball in space. He can do that again. I know there's a whole lot of talk right now about Jordan Howard playing on 3rd down ever, and that's going to happen at the beginning of the season a whole lot. But at some point in time, Matt Nagy's going to figure out that Tariq Cohen is just way better in passing situations than Jordan Howard is, and Jordan Howard will be phased out at 3rd down low. And if Tariq Cohen could see a decent share, maybe not rushes, but especially receptions this season in the offense, and I think 9th round, maybe a little bit late to take him.
See, I don't know if I agree with that. I don't want anything to do with Tariq Cohen, because Tariq Cohen's going to be, like we saw last year, kind of what he was. Like, he's a guy that if you are strapped at the position of running back, you'll start him and just hope for the one big play. And people will think that he might get slot work, but you look at a guy like Taylor Gabriel, who is a legitimate wide receiver, and he kind of does everything that Tariq Cohen does at the slot, but better. Like, there's a reason why he's a running back in the NFL compared to a wide receiver like Taylor Gabriel. And Tariq Cohen, I'm scared to draft him. I don't want to touch him. I think he's a very good football player for the Bears. I think he's a phenomenal athlete. But as far as a guy that you're going to try to rely on in fantasy. I don't want to be the guy that's hoping for the 3 weeks that Tariq Cohen just absolutely explodes.
So in the 9th round, it's kind of what you're hoping for with any guy you draft.
No, I think 9th round you're more looking. I know myself. I would be looking for a guy who could possibly get more volume, more work. Like I said, like wide receivers that were flirting with the 900 yards last season, young still, and could take that next step. Tariq Cohen, he's such a roll of the dice for me.
Well, if you see that 900 yards, I mean, he just broke out in 2 or 3 or 4 games. Like Tariq Cohen's going to do. It's the same thing, just different numbers for it.
I'm not going to be on the Tariq Cohen train. I love Nagy's offense. I think Tariq Cohen will put up some decent numbers, but it's going to be so few and far between that it's going to be hard to judge those games. Because the games last year that he broke out, nobody really expected him to have good games on those nights. I don't think I'll be touching him. I just don't think I would.
I can see him have it for 9th round value.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good for 9th round value. I think he's going to be a little more involved in the offense than people think he is. I mean, they're all-purpose guy. He's going to be there. I think he's going to come in passing situations, and I think he'll have a solid year for a 9th round guy.
See, I would rather take a guy like Sony Michel. I know I don't like getting into the Patriots offense and, the running backs, but I would rather take a shot at him than going at Tariq Cohen. And you got to think, on passing downs, one of the most important things, probably the most important thing that a running back does on passing downs is block. And you're not going to put your 5'6".
Do you know how running back blocks a linebacker? They gain away for 1 second, knock him off its path.
Yeah, but he's a 5'6".
Anything in math can do that.
He is a 5'6", 160-pound running back. They're not going to put him out there to block.
He get thrown away. All you got to do is gut the knees. That's legal.
I'm not a big Tariq Cohen fan. I like having him on the Bears, and I'm a Bears fan. And this is coming from a Bears fan. I like having him on the team. I just would not have him on my fantasy team.
All right.
That's how I'll sum that up. So I'll get to my sleeper running back, and I'm actually going to go to San Francisco with Alfred Morris. So in the last 2 years, you think of Alfred Morris having a pretty down career compared to Jerick McKinnon, and the numbers really don't say that. So in games that Alfred Morris got at least 10 carries in, there were 6 of those such games. All 6 games, he went for over 50 yards. He had 4.8 yards per carry last year. And you look at McKinnon, he had 6 games of 10-plus carries and 50 yards. So he had the same amount of times where he got the ball 10 times and had 50 yards. But he had 16 opportunities. So there was 10 times basically where this guy went out there and got like sub 3 yard per carry. Like he has been statistically bad over the past few seasons, and he doesn't do a whole lot of things great. Like he's a decent pass catcher, basically just because Latavius Murray couldn't be a pass catcher last year. And you're a little worried about Alfred Morris with the age. He really hasn't taken that many hits over the past 2 seasons, and Alfred Morris with Kyle Shanahan back whenever they were both at Washington with the Redskins, 2,800 yards in 2 seasons. 4.7 yards per carry, 20 touchdowns. And McKinnon, his overall career has just been terrible. 58 career games, 2 100-yard performances. 22 times did he see the opportunity to do so with 10 or more carries. I'm staying away from Jerick McKinnon. I'm leaning more towards Alfred Morris. I really think that Alfred Morris, if he is able to get the lion's share, around week 3 or week 4, could possibly sneak up and be a top 15 running back. I mean, he's going against a guy who is most notable for a 20-carry game with 36 yards in Jerick McKinnon. I'm definitely all about Alfred Morris this season.
Actually, Drake, I'm going to be quite the opposite of you. I'm going to stay away from 49ers running backs altogether. Based off of what I said earlier about Garoppolo, even if Alfred, I could see him coming there taking the lion's share of touches. But playing the Vikings and then the Rams twice a year and then playing even the Seahawks front 7 still is not bad at all. I just don't see, he's playing a lot of good front 7s. He's playing the Buccaneers who have a great front 7 too. He's also going to play the Broncos who they're always good on defense. He's playing the Bears who have an amazing front 7 too. I just don't think any 49ers running back is going to have a top 15 fantasy running back year.
With Alfred Morris, though, I feel like a lot of his value is going to come late, after the first few weeks. So I don't know if he's going to be able to sneak up in that top 15. We've seen Kyle Shanahan's system, though, whenever he was with the Falcons. be viable for 2 fantasy running backs. And, Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman were both able to have success and both able to get yards. I just feel like if there's a running back that I'm going to dive onto, I would rather go with an Alfred Morris who might not be drafted, who may go in the very last round of your draft, rather than reaching for Jerick McKinnon, who's going in the first 4 or 5 rounds.
I understand you're thinking about it, but the only thing is, with Shanahan's system, they had a much better offensive line, and the personnel was a lot better when he was in Atlanta than it is out there in San Francisco.
No, I agree with that 100%.
I could see maybe Alfred Morris, but I'd kind of wait, either late in the draft or a waiver wire addition after one of them comes out as a top running back, is what I'd say.
Yeah, I do. I would wait late. I'm not saying go out there and get Alfred Morris early on, but be the smart man in the room. Round 13 rolls around, your team's basically set, and you're going to go out there and either take a huge flyer on a guy, or Alfred Morris, who he's really one Jerick McKinnon injury, or Jerick McKinnon really not playing well, and over Jerick McKinnon's career, he's never played well. So I love that. I love a late round Alfred Morris this year.
Well, speaking of the devil, my bust, and it's also going to be my bold prediction, Jerick McKinnon going to be just the worst pick in fantasy draft this season. Last season, he had 150 carries for 570 yards. That's 3.8 yards per attempt. He did a good catching the ball, but if Kyle Shanahan wants to be a 3-down back, he has to run it. And Kyle Shanahan said he thinks he can be a 3-down back. He thinks. He has no fucking idea if he can do it or not. He's just saying that because, he wants him to be. But I really looked at the San Francisco running back chart this past week. Here's a running back on their roster. Matt Breida, 5'10", 190. Jaquan Garner, 5'7", 205. Jerick McKinnon, 5'9", 205. Jimmy Michaels, 5'9", 205. Alfred Morris, 5'10", 222. He'll get a short yardage book. Raheem Mostert, 5'10", 197. Joe Williams, 5'11", 205. Maybe it's not that he thinks he can get all the carries. Maybe he just does not care if he gets hurt because he knows he has three more just like Jay McKinnon right behind him, and Jay McKinnon having the best of best situation. Jay McKinnon will suck this year.
I 100% agree with you. And if the injury concern with Jerick McKinnon wasn't that bad, why would Shanahan go out there and get a guy who almost gave him 3,000 yards in 2 seasons? I mean, why would you even bring Alfred Morris onto the team? If you are dead set and you firmly believe, which you had just said, Shanahan said, I think he's a 3-down back.
No one knows. No one has any idea.
No. And I just don't think that he believes that. Like he said it, I think that he is, but I'm going to go out there and I'm going to sign Alfred Morris, a guy that has been true and tried my system and been phenomenal, and I'm just going to sign him just for shits and giggles. That doesn't happen in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So, Leighton, you hit us with your bust. Lex, go ahead and give us yours.
I'm actually going to go over to Joe Mixon. I don't think that he's going to play to his value of a third-round pick. Joe Mixon, he's not really proven in the NFL. If you go back and look at the stats, last year he averaged 3.5 yards per carry. Okay? I don't know about you guys, but a guy that's averaging 3.5 yards per carry, that's not very good in my opinion.
No, absolutely not.
Especially as a guy you think is going to be the bell cow back of an offense. And, the Bengals over the year, they've had Jeremy Hill, who, honestly, if you look at talent-wise, he might even be better than Joe Mixon is. But I don't think Joe has what it takes to lead an offense. And I just don't think the Bengals are going to be very relevant this year outside of AJ Green.
No, and for a guy who's only averaging 3.5 yards per carry, he better be getting you 20 carries. And teams aren't able to do that if you're trailing.
And I think most of the games are going to be behind. They're playing in a division with the Steelers. They're going to have to do something if they want to get better, and I don't think Joe Mixon is the answer.
No, I actually agree with you. I think he's being taken way too high. A guy that I think is actually going to bust this season, Leighton, you hit one of my guys right on the head with Jerick McKinnon. I'm actually going to go with LaShawn McCoy. And you look at the ADP for LaShawn McCoy, it's right at the end of the third round. And I'm not going to go out and spend a third-round pick on a guy who, A, is going to have some legal trouble come up at some point in the season. It's just a matter of time. We've seen it time and time again with NFL players. Boom, right in the middle of the season, he's done for 4 or 5 games. And on top of that, he was as inefficient as he's ever been in his career last year. And he's had a ton of carries. I mean, the guy's had 2,100 carries in his career. It's going to start weighing on him. And last year, he only averaged 4 yards per carry, which for LaShawn McCoy being, a guy who we've seen in 2 separate seasons average over 5 yards per carry, the team's going to be bad. Like, last year, Tyrod Taylor hit him for a ton of passes. He caught 59 passes out of the backfield. He's not going to do that again this year. Tyrod with him was kind of an anomaly. And the team's going to be bad. They're not going to be ahead. Therefore, he's not going to get, the late work to run out the clock. It's always going to be, hey, no, we're going to have to push the ball downfield the whole entire fourth quarter and try to play catch-up. I just think LeSean McCoy, you add on the fact that he's turning 30 now. Running backs rarely have success past the age of 30. His inefficiency last year and no more Tyrod, I think it's just going to make for basically an explosion for LeSean McCoy this year. And I haven't even mentioned the legal troubles again. So I wouldn't touch him. I think that unless I'm getting him in like the 5th or 6th round, I don't think I'm going to touch him. So Lex, what do you have as your bold prediction for this season?
Bold prediction. In PPR leagues, Christian McCaffrey will finish as the number 1 overall running back.
Ooh, that is a bold prediction.
That is a bold prediction. If you go back and look at it last year, though, based on touches, he averaged the 4th most fantasy points per touch. And he's going to have an increasing workload this year.
Yeah.
That could lead to him being the top overall running back in fantasy in PPR.
Leighton, what did you have as your bold prediction?
Jet McKinnon's going to suck. I'll show you the stats again real quick to prove my point. Last season, 150 rushes, 570 yards, 3.8 yards per attempt. He did good passing game, which means he's good in space. Not between tackle, which is where you have to run on first and second down.
And my bold prediction, I'm going to go with LeSean McCoy is not even going to be a top 20 running back. I'm going really bold with that. I think Buffalo, they're looking to get younger, and LeSean McCoy is not going to be the answer. And I hate to wish it on anybody, but all these nagging injuries over time are eventually going to catch up with him.
Heck, man, he might even be behind bars by the end of the year, too.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's possible.
There's too many things working against LeSean McCoy. There's too many for me to touch him. So we'll go ahead and go to the wide receiver position. And Lex, go ahead and give us your sleeper.
My sleeper this year actually goes to a Texas guy, Marquise Goodwin. I think he's being taken in the 6th round. He's going to be kind of a boomer bust guy.
Hates Garoppolo. Love Marquise Goodwin.
Hates Garoppolo. Hates all the 49ers.
Leighton,
Loves Garoppolo.
Leighton, hey, what do we always say? Somebody's got to catch passes. Somebody's got to catch the ball. I think him and Marquise Goodwin, Garoppolo, they had kind of a connection going there at the end of the season last year. I think they can build off that, and Marquise Goodwin could have a hell of a fantasy season. He could be kind of guy you stack on your bench, and you kind of just pick him in a spot, and he could contribute to your team very well.
Yeah, no, I do like him as a bench guy, but you're going to have to pick your weeks. You're going to have to pick your battles hard with him.
That's what I'm getting to with him.
And even in the week that seems obvious, you'll still miss those weeks. So he just won't catch a deep ball.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree. Marquise Goodwin could... Oh, man, it all depends on the play of Garoppolo. I feel like Garoppolo's going to be down, which would mean that Goodwin's going to be down. But they did have a connection. That's undoubtable. He's a deep ball guy. That's for sure. Fastest guy on the field, no matter where he's at. Which coach was it in the NFL that said that they didn't realize Marquise Goodwin was that fast?
Was it Rex? No.
I think it was Rex Ryan.
Was it Rex Ryan? They didn't realize that the Olympic triple jumper was that fast. The guy was in the Olympics to triple jump. He's gonna be pretty fast.
Yeah, that was one of the best things I'd ever seen. He's standing at the podium. They said, how'd you get burnt that deep? Well, we didn't put anybody over the top of him because we didn't realize he was that fast. Like, did you do any research?
I'll find out who that was.
So, Leighton, who is your steal of this draft?
My steal of this draft is actually a guy who talked about him before. It's a Brandon Cooks. Jake talks about how he doesn't love him, but Jake did make the point that he's always a 1,000-yard guy. That's just what he is. He got traded to the Rams, and they signed him to an $80 million extension basically immediately. Sean McVay's a really smart head coach, and I don't think he would get a wide receiver $80 million if it was going to make him a point of the offense next to Todd Gurley. Cooper Kupp, with being there, is a bit of a worry, but I feel like they would not pay Brandon Cooks, $80 million if they didn't have him next to Todd Gurley in the slot or something like that and just going wild all season.
Yeah, you mentioned his contract. I was looking today after the Rams had made it official with Aaron Donald. The NFL salary cap is $101 million right now. Whenever Jared Goff is due for an extension, they will have $40-something million, which is right around half of your cap space, locked into Brandon Cooks, Todd Gurley, and Aaron Donald. Goff being a number one pick who's been producing well, if you give him a $20 million deal, 60% of your cap is on 4 guys.
Yeah.
That's unreal to me. That is unreal. So my wide receiver that's a sleeper this season is a guy that's been around the league for a long time. Kenny Stills. He's been around the league since 2013 was his first season. But he's only 26 years old, which is pretty wild whenever you think about the career of, NFL guys. He's had only 2 seasons of 50-plus catches. Both of those seasons, though, he did go over 840 yards. Never had more than 63 catches in a season. If you look at his yards per catch, 16.1, that is a phenomenal number. And he only needs 62 catches to get 1,000 yards. And you look at the offense, Jarvis Landry. It might be a little bit of a stretch, but if you ranked from last season 10 guys that if they came off of their team, it would change the fantasy dynamic of their team more than any other players, Jarvis Landry's on that list. He had 112 catches last season. Those catches have to go somewhere. And if Kenny Stills is able to reel in 20 of those balls, and last year he was playing with Jay Cutler, if he was able to reel in 20 with what he had averaged last year, he would have been a 1,000-yard guy. He would have had 8 touchdown catches, and he would have been all but a lock as a wide receiver too last season. So I really like Kenny Stills. He's going extremely late. He's going around there wide receiver 45, which I'm saying that he's going to be a wide receiver too. So that would make him flirting in the top 20 there. I would rather go with him than Sterling Shepard, DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, 3 guys who are guaranteed not to be the number 1 fiddle in the passing game, and they're all getting drafted right around him. So I would go with Kenny Stills. I love Kenny Stills as a late-round sleeper. He's going to be great this year. I think he's going to eclipse 1,000 yards for the first time in his career, and he's going to be a guy who's going to get you 6, 7, maybe even 8 touchdowns. So, Lex, wide receiver position, we've talked about the sleepers. Who's going to be the bust?
I'm actually going to go the opposite of Leighton and go with Brandon Cooks. I do not love Brandon Cooks at all. I've said this before. Sammy Watkins plays the same role that Brandon Cooks plays, and he could not thrive in Sean McVay's system. Why should I believe that Brandon Cooks is going to do the same, other than the fact that they paid him? They paid him. Yeah, they can always cut him if he doesn't perform up to standards.
My bust this season, and I always expect that of 2 busts, but I can see him busting really hard, and that's Tyreek Hill. He's known for big plays. That's what he does. Last year, he had 3 receptions inside the red zone. So basically, big play machine. I like Mahomes a whole lot for what he can do for big plays, but Tyreek Hill is too hard to sustain, 40-plus yard touchdowns. End around how you want to get them.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. It's just going to be basically if Mahomes hits that deep ball.
Yeah, I don't hate Tyreek Hill, but I can see him busting hard.
Oh, yeah, I think that there's going to be those games where he might have 2 catches. I really think that that's a possibility.
Or something.
Yeah, I feel like he's more of a gadget guy, which worked better with Nagy, and a smart quarterback like Alex Smith who's able to set up that deep ball. Mm-hmm. I could see that being a possible bust. I still do like Tyreek Hill, but
I don't dislike Tyreek Hill, but I could see him busting out in the 3rd round.
Yeah. Oh, for the 3rd round pick, absolutely. Yeah. I would not take him in the 3rd round. My guy he's actually a 3rd round pick as well, and that's Stephon Diggs. He's going 26th overall for no absolute reason. And you look at his career, he's put up good numbers, like 700 yards, 900 yards, 850 yards last season, 4 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, then 8 touchdowns last season. I don't know about you guys, but the fact that they're getting Kirk Cousins does give him a boost. But the fact that they're getting Dalvin Cook back, who the offense could possibly run primarily through him, makes me like Stephon Diggs less than what I like him with Kirk Cousins. And you look at Kirk Cousins' career, he's been a guy who loves to go to the tight end. Over the last 3 seasons that he started, he's averaged giving the tight end position 1,000 yards per season. So you lock in 1,000 yards to Kyle Rudolph or in the other tight ends, obviously. I don't think Rudolph's going to get all of that. He will get the lion's share. But Stephon Diggs, he's not going to be the leading receiver on his team. Like, Adam Thielen is going to be more slotted for Kirk Cousins' game, and I really like the fact that Dalvin Cook's coming back, and this team's going to be playing with a lead almost the whole entire season with the defense. I don't think that you can take Stephon Diggs in the third round and find great success in your fantasy league.
Brandon, when you listen to this, we really don't like your fantasy team.
No, it's not a shot at B-Reich at all. I just think that third round for Stephon, I think Stephon Diggs is going to be productive this season. I think he's going to be good. But taking him in the third round, whenever you have better options there below him, I mean, he's going above T.Y. Hilton, Doug Baldwin, and Adam Thielen. I don't like Stephon Diggs going in the third round of any draft, and I'm not going to be the guy getting caught taking a guy in his fourth season, never had the 1,000 yards, and getting their premier running back. I just don't like the combination.
Well, this is actually, I'm going to take the show over right now because my bold prediction is going to be Stephon Diggs finishing in the top 5 wide receiver for the season.
Oh, that's your bold prediction?
It is.
That's really bold.
Last season, we saw Stephon Diggs played 14 games. He might get 1,000 yards. We played 16, but it's not a lot of math. I'm not going to say that. But last season, I said before, Case Keenum was playing not to lose his job, meaning that he was going to take less shots than maybe he could have, and Stephon Diggs is really good at stretching the field. Kirk Cousins got paid. Everyone knows that job's his. He got out the first 5 games and have 20 picks. He'll probably still start week 6 for them. So Stephon Diggs, I like him a lot. I hate to get him too high, maybe, but I can see him having a humongous season.
He could have a humongous season, but there's 4 mouths to feed in that offense. I mean, I love Kyle Rudolph. I like Adam Thielen.
How hurt's Thielen?
Huh?
How hurt's Adam Thielen?
How hurt?
Yeah.
I mean, he'll be okay.
Hey.
He's gritty.
Injuries linger. He's gritty.
I just don't know.
He works hard.
Stephon Diggs.
Sports the troops.
Stephon Diggs being the number 11 wide receiver in drafts, I feel like you're just taking a little bit of a reach on him, though.
No, I would take. I think T.Y. Hilton over him, but look at Larry Fitzgerald over him, make a couple guys like that. But look at this list, not many. And it's bold prediction. Top 5 wide receiver, Stephon Diggs.
We like him bold. Lex, what is your bold prediction at the wide receiver
Bold
position?
prediction, Tyreek Hill is the number 1 overall wide receiver at the end of your fantasy. Sammy Watkins on the other side, they're not going to be able to shade over him because Sammy Watkins can do the exact same thing that Tyreek Hill can. Tyreek Hill might get touches out of the backfield, and he's always a threat to take one to the house on punt returns and kickoff returns. Don't sleep on him. I think he could finish as the top number 1 wide receiver.
That would be a lot of ground to make up on limited targets. But, Lex, like I said,
it's bold.
We like him bold.
We like him bold. I give it to you bold.
And you gave me a bold one. I think a pretty bold prediction here for myself. I know I didn't have him ranked as the number 1 wide receiver, but at the end of the season he was producing like one, and that's Keenan Allen. Do not be surprised that Keenan Allen finishes this season as the number 1 wide receiver. You look at what he did at the end of last season. I think it was the last 7 weeks of the regular season with Phillip Rivers. He would have been on pace if he'd have kept up those numbers the whole season. 188 catches. Don't expect him to get 188 catches, but he'll get a lot. And the Chargers last season got on a tear whenever Keenan Allen was seeing the ball more. I think he's going to get a ton of catches. It wouldn't surprise me if he flirts with breaking the NFL record in catches this season. And he's going to get a ton of volume. I love Keenan Allen. I don't have him ranked as my number 1, but my bold prediction will be Keenan Allen, number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football. So we'll go ahead and get to the tight end position here. Guys, who are your sleepers at the tight end position?
My sleeper tight end position is going to be Tyler Eifert. I know you're thinking he's hurt all the time, but he's going into the 14th, 15th round of drafts. Not 2 seasons ago, but 3 seasons ago, he had 13 touchdown catches and only 12 games played. The next season, 8 games played, 5 touchdown catches. So he's basically a touchdown machine. Andy Dalton, his weapons are dwindling. I don't have faith in the running game at all. I have faith in Joe Mixon. Basically, it's AJ Green and then nobody. Eifert is a humongous red zone threat, and if he can stay healthy, he'll be a good tight end. And in the 15th, 16th round, just take a shot on him.
No.
It's 16th round. You don't have to kick in your defense. Go for it.
No, I actually do like that. I think Tyler Eifert could possibly produce. It just depends on if he's able to stay on the field. And I love that your narrative's changed on the Bengals because I feel like every year you've gotten caught in the mix of drafting all the Bengals running backs.
Yeah, I'm not doing it this year.
Yeah, not doing that this year?
No. 2 years ago, I took Hill and Gio. Fucking clusterfuck. Last year, I took Joe Mixon in the 3rd round. that shit never panned out. I'm just avoiding it.
Did you have Geo too last year at some
I had
point?
Geo at one point. I picked up Geo the wire whenever the film went down. But yeah, just not
It
necessarily.
all comes back full circle.
If Leighton is telling you not to trust the Bengals running back, he knows
have
the backfield.
experience.
Yes, he knows the backfield as good as anybody. Do not get into that mess. Lex, who is your sleeper at the tight end position?
Well, he's going to be my sleeper, but he shouldn't be a sleeper, and that's David Njoku. I think he has the potential to be the safety blanket that Tyrod Taylor needs to succeed. I think he can be a big-time red zone threat. He's an athletic specimen. I could see him catching. I mean, Tyrod Taylor's game has not been throwing the ball to the outside, to his outside receivers. It's been throwing the ball over the middle, kind of dink and dunk your way down the field. I think Njoku could fit that mold perfectly, and I think he could finish way up there. And even if Baker Mayfield does come in and be the starter, he showed earlier on in preseason that Njoku was the guy that he wanted to get the ball to.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that sleeper. And, whenever I was talking about Tyrod Taylor earlier in the segments, I named Charles Clay as a top 1 or 2 wide receiver for Tyrod Taylor the last 2 seasons. And Charles Clay was drafted as a running back, and David Njoku is he's a certified specimen at the tight end position. He's a monster. I actually love that sleeper. I'll take it a little off board here since you jumped on my guy, and I'll give you Jordan Reed. A lot of people forget how athletic this guy is. The only question about Jordan Reed is health. And if he comes into this season healthy, Alex Smith actually gets an upgrade at the tight end position. Travis Kelce is phenomenal. He's great all-around tight end, but at catching the ball and making plays, Jordan Reed excels past him even. He's up there with Gronk as being just unbelievable athlete at the tight end position. He's going 10th right now as far as tight ends go. I feel like if you're sitting there in the draft and you realize that you haven't taken a tight end yet, I would go with Jordan Reed, and then later on in the draft, take a safety blanket. I'm not saying draft Jordan Reed as the guy you're going to play week in and week out, just because the injury concerns are so high with him. He could be a top 5 tight end. He could be the number 3 tight end, and it wouldn't surprise me. But if you're going to draft Jordan Reed, take him appropriately. Take him as that 8. I would say I might dip into him if 7 tight ends have already been gone, and then take myself a safety blanket later on.
Plan on taking a backup for you draft Jordan Reed.
Yeah, I almost never roster 2 tight ends, but if I'm going to take Jordan Reed, who is, he is a wide receiver too if he's healthy, I would take him and I would get the safety blanket. It would not surprise me, though, if Jordan Reed, healthy with Alex Smith, just absolutely torched everybody. So we talked about the guys that we think are flying under the radar. It's kind of hard at the tight end position to pick a bust just because we only expect a lot from 4 guys. But who do we see not having as good of a season as what they're drafted as? Who do you have, Lex?
As my bust, I have Evan Ingram, actually. You add Saquon Barkley, which is by default, that's going to take away even more touches from Ingram. You bring back Odell Beckham, who is by default, again, is going to take touches away. Sterling Shepard comes back healthy. I think that's just going to completely take away from Evan Ingram's volume, who's going to lose that. Last year, he had a string of games that were pretty good, but other than that, after a double-digit game, he usually followed it back with either just a low-scoring game or it wasn't even close. I mean, he had 1 catch and I'm looking here. Yeah, he had 1 catch in 2 games at the end of the year, but that's not good at all. I don't think his production is going to be any close to what it was last year.
No, and you look at him last year as a tight end position. As far as tight ends go, he had the 2nd most targets, and he was still only the 6th best tight end. And last year, it was basically Evan Ingram by default. I mean, everybody else was hurt. Sterling Shepard, Odell Beckham, and then now you add in Saquon. I agree with you 100% on there. I would not take Evan Ingram as the number 7 tight end where he's listed. Leighton, who do you have as your bust this season?
I want to preface this by saying, for the first time in my 13 playing fantasy football, I don't hate any of the tight ends in the top 11 or 12. I'd be fine having them in my starter for any given week. But I'm going to go with Greg Olsen. Talked about it on the Southern Side podcast. He was hurt last year. They brought on DJ Moore this year. More mouths to feed for him. I think they have a good year, but 4th tight end overall, outranking that position.
Yeah, Oh man, Greg Olson. I love Greg Olson.
I love Greg Olson too. Who's saying that? But
It does hurt. It does hurt saying that he'll have a fall down year. I think he'll be all right.
yeah, I mean, he's getting older. Hurt last year. More mouths to feed now. He'll get touchdowns. Red zone guy, deep ball guy. But
Yeah, no, I agree with that. He will get his touchdowns. I'm actually going to go with the Bears here with Trey Burton. He's being taken as the 6th overall tight end, basically off the hope that Matt Nagy comes in and feeds the tight end over and over. And I don't like to roll the dice like that. You know, Trey Burton, he was the backup for Zach Ertz for some time. There's a reason why he's a backup to Zach Ertz for a long period of time. I mean, Zach Ertz is good, but I don't think that, I mean, he's not like Gronk. He's not like Kelsey. I don't even think he's Jimmy Graham. I feel like that he just had very, very good times. And with Trey Burton, you're taking him as your 6th tight end, and you're taking him in the 7th round. There is way better value in the 7th round than taking Trey Burton. I feel like Trey Burton's not even going to be a top 10 option at the end of the season. And you add in the fact that they do have a freak of an athlete that they drafted just last season in Adam Shaheen. And the Bears kind of drafted him hoping that he would be the future. And the guy's built like Rob Gronkowski. He's 6'6", and he's just a mammoth of a human being. So I don't know why you would leave him on the bench in favor of Trey Burton, who's been this career backup. I'm not buying into the Trey Burton hype. So at the tight end position, it's always really hard to have a really good bold prediction on this. But Lex, what do you have?
Bold prediction: Rob Gronkowski plays a full 16 games this year.
That is the most bold prediction you had this whole podcast.
Fuck both positions any of us has had.
Yeah, I think that's extremely bold. Leighton, what do you have as your bold prediction?
David Njoku finishes in the top 6 of tight ends. I like him. Be started if you season. Both quarterbacks like to throw to him. So either Tyler Taylor gets benched or gets hurt for no reason, Baker's going to him. And looking at the top 6 guys now going off the board: Gronk, Kelsey, Ertz, Graham, Olsen, Burton. I'm not a huge fan of Burton like Drake is. I'm not a huge fan of Olsen. I could see him sticking up there in the top 6 or 7.
Yeah, I could definitely see David Njoku sneaking up there. It's all whether or not this guy can catch the ball. I mean, everything else is there. Can he catch the ball? That might be the most important thing a wide receiver or tight end has to do, but can he do it? I'm actually going to go with my bold prediction. I think Jimmy Graham's going to lead all of the NFL in touchdowns, receiving touchdowns. You know, Jimmy Graham, you look at what Jordy Nelson had done over the past few seasons with Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers knows who the good red zone guys are, and Jimmy Graham is as good as any in the NFL. And you mix that with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, who love to throw inside the red zone because you have the man himself. So it would be obvious for them to pass in the red zone. They're going to do it a lot, and I think Jimmy Graham's going to be the guy that they target down there. And, you know, I honestly think that he's going to lead the NFL in receiving touchdowns.
I mean, it only took Rodgers 4 passes in the preseason to find Jimmy Graham for a touchdown.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to take very long. Like you said, he's already hitting for a touchdown in the preseason. I think that's just going to continue. I think it wouldn't surprise me if we end this season and Jimmy Graham has 13, 14 touchdown catches. All right, so we're going to go ahead and transition gears here and talk a little bit about defenses. Defenses are really hard to, have a team explode, and, to actually have a bust as a defense is a lot that has to go into it, and you really can't predict it. So we're just going to go real quick here. Bold predictions for the defensive position. Lex, what is your bold prediction?
Bold prediction for this year: the Los Angeles Chargers will have the number 1 overall fantasy defense by the end of the year.
That would not surprise me. I love the addition of Derwin James.
Losing for that really sucks for him. But
And Joey Bosa might win Defensive Player of the Year.
That honestly wouldn't surprise me.
He's really good.
Proven.
Yeah.
And he's the only defensive end that really has, like, an elite defensive end that has another guy on the other side.
Yes.
Yeah, so that would not surprise me at all. Leighton, what do you have here?
My prediction is that the Houston Texans defense is not in the top 5, but the number 1 overall defense in fantasy football.
That is very, very bold, seeing that their cornerbacks could not even guard me or Lex.
We know they allowed a whole lot of points last season. The whole team was hurt, basically. If Watt and Wiley can stay healthy for the entire season, and they got Tyrann Mathieu, that defense will be legit, and that team could be phenomenal.
Yeah, so my bold prediction on the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to go with the Titans being a top 5 defense. They're not even getting drafted in leagues, definitely not even going in the top 12. Mike Vrabel comes in, phenomenal defensive coach. You know, he played for Belichick for basically his whole career. 14th fewest yards per game last season. They gave up the 4th least rushing yards, but the 25th least receiving yards. So you look at this team, they were very, very good against the run, terrible against the pass. You add in Kenny Vaccaro and Malcolm Butler, this team can be legit. I really like the Kenny Vaccaro addition because you do already have Kevin Byard back there, who is an all-pro safety. Kenny Vaccaro is just an upgrade to go on the opposite side of him. I like this team as a late-round steal. If you're sitting there and 6-7 defenses get fired off and you're really not in love with the defense, I think that the Titans would be a very good defense to take. Plus, Marcus Mariota's not going to leave you in short yard opportunities. He's not going to go out there and make dumb turnovers, give the other team a short field, and they like to run the ball. So the other team's going to get very few plays. I think the Tennessee Titans will be a top 5 defense this season. So, guys, anything else before we wrap this bad boy up?
Next week will be our last episode on SoundCloud. For the 2 or 3 listeners still on SoundCloud, go to Spotify. We'll have the link posted from Spotify to our Twitter account here pretty soon, and just switch now.
And on that note, for Drake, for Lex, and Leighton, Dippers, as always, stay saucy.